Welcome back. How would you feel if someone were to say to you, you are so selfish, or you're a racist, or you are a thief, or you're so soft? Hold that thought. Welcome back to Say Yes to You. On this channel, I do love talking things related to personal development, spirituality, and really asking questions of ourselves to just dive deeper and reveal what I would say is a better version of yourself. If you're interested in this type of content, go ahead and subscribe to my channel. Go ahead and hit the notification bell and preemptive strike. Give the video a thumbs up. So now, back to you being selfish or racist. Some people may find that type of comment to be very offensive, but in reality, every human being has the spectrum of those kinds of characteristics within themselves. And when we become enraged, when we try so hard to fight off those parts of ourselves, it can really cause a war inside of ourselves and actually attract more of the thing that you're pushing away. If you are on your spiritual journey, you may have already come across this book. Let's see if I can. The Dark Side of the Light Chasers. Now, this is Debbie Ford's work. It's very popular in the personal development world and spirituality world. And when she's talking about the dark side, what she's referring to is our shadows. This idea that you are a racist, that's a very, hot button word right now. In truth, many of us who would never consider ourselves to be racist are in fact racists. Many people who consider themselves to be good people have a selfish side. Many women who are assertive, are go-getters, may be weary of that terminology of bitch, but every woman has that bitchy side of her, the side that I would say can really get things done. So those are things that are in the shadow. And because of this idea that we want to be perceived, it really starts in the family. The kinds of things that you are praised for versus the kind of things that you're punished for, that's going to really determine what characteristics, spring to the forefront, which characteristics of yourself are your dominant characteristics. But again, we all have these less desirable qualities in ourselves that are our shadows. And the reason that they hide, we try to keep them in the shadows, or they hide in the shadow, is because there's this association with being, negative or counterproductive. There are just these parts of ourselves that we don't want to acknowledge. And like I say, when there's so much effort being used to push those parts away, it only gets bigger because it wants to be expressed, it wants to be acknowledged. Case in point, clearly I'm a Black person. The kinds of things that I really excite me, the things that I enjoy, I do oftentimes find myself in groups with people who are not Black, which is fine. So in doing my work, I encountered a colleague, and we became friends. And something that, a recurring theme in our conversation was her encountering with people who turned out to be racist. And again, with this being a colleague, so this is someone who would consider themselves to be broad-minded. This is someone who's a professional dealing in the realms of spirituality and also in the realm of human psychology, okay? But what would happen is in her personal life, different things would come up to where she would be confronted by people who are what she would consider to be racist. And she told me many, many times that she herself is not a racist. So what I want to say about this type of thing, this type of phenomenon is, because there are some non-ethnic people who, are white, and perhaps it's something common in other cultures too, I don't know. But for some white people who really pride themselves on being inclusive, there could be this desire to push anything considered to be racist away. And I think in the case of my colleague, what it was is that her parents were racist. And they instilled that in her growing up. So because she began to have a worldview once getting away from childhood, becoming an adult, and being able to interact with other kinds of people, she began to see that there was an error, there was some wrong thinking happening with her family, okay? So because she recognized that to be wrong thinking on the part of her family, she wanted to go in the opposite direction. But guess what? Oftentimes, the things that we learn as young people, they become part of our foundation. Even though we may not acknowledge it, even though it's something, more than being acknowledged, something that we choose to push away, it's still in there. It's still in there. So what Debbie Ford, getting back to the book, so what Debbie Ford talks to us about with this shadow work is beginning to identify these qualities in ourselves, because again, we have the spectrum of human emotions, the spectrum of biases inside of us, most of us. So what is recommended here is that we begin to acknowledge and embrace that part of ourselves. There's so many different layers, but a brief overview, I would highly recommend that you yourself go out and read the book, but that you acknowledge this part of yourself, that you embrace this part of yourself so that there's no longer that war happening inside of you. People can be so busy trying to prove that they are not racist, for example, that they're always being confronted by these racists, and that's going to get them agitated. You're so focused on not being selfish, you're encountering people who in fact are what you consider to be selfish, and they're taking and taking and taking from you. But the reason that's happening is because, the world that's inside of us is going to be reflected in the world outside of us. So if this is something that you may not realize is so active inside of you, you're using so much mental effort to push this thing away. Not only is it there, you're giving so much energy to its repulsion, you're making it bigger, you're making it stronger. So that's what has to come back to you. That's what has to come back to you. That is the law of attraction. You think that you're focused on one thing. That's the law of polarity, actually. Everything is on the spectrum. There's a positive side and the negative side, and then everything in between. As a deliberate creator, it's incumbent upon you or us to really be mindful in how you're directing your attention. A lot of us, are sloppy thinkers. We think that we're thinking on the positive side, but when in fact, what's being shown, the evidence is that you're thinking on the negative side. So you begin to embrace all those parts of yourself. You begin to acknowledge those parts of yourself. Look at what I would say? Here's an activity you can try. You can think of some characteristics, if you're honest, if you're interested in this kind of thing, think of some characteristics about yourself that may be undesirable in your opinion, or maybe even things people have said to you that are very spicy, right? They really elicit some type of response from you. Maybe you do hear a lot that you're selfish, and it upsets you because a part of you understands that being selfish is actually not a bad thing. Everything is in balance. Everything should be in balance. There are going to be times to be selfish, to fill up your own cup, and then there are going to be times for you to be generous, or somewhere in between. But if people oftentimes tell you that you're selfish and that really elicits a response from you, take a look there. That's something for you to investigate. What did you learn as a child about being selfish? Were you scolded perhaps if there were, multiple siblings, or maybe in school, if you were scolded for, wanting all of the cookies or all of the crayons or something, and you were shamed for it. But really begin to examine yourself, and look at these characteristics that perhaps people are telling you about yourself, or things about yourself that you don't like. And then I would say, make a pros and cons list, obviously, because if it's part of us, there are pros. I really believe that these are gifts. God gifts us with emotions. God gifts us with, free will and free thought. So there are going to be reasons why these so-called negative attributes are there. So make a pros and cons list. What are the ways that having this characteristic have helped you? What are the ways that they've hurt you? And an exercise from the book is to really be confronting with yourself. Sticking with the example of being selfish, repeat to yourself, I am selfish. Or even look in a mirror if you really want to kick it up a notch. I am selfish. I am selfish. And you're repeating this to yourself. You're allowing it to really sink in with the goal of dispersing that negative energy. When you're able to really sit in, I am selfish, and not feel negatively charged by it, you're really on your way to really moving forward from that. So that's what I would say is something you could do. Stop the video right now. Go ahead and put a comment down below and let me know, what do you think about shadow sides? Parts of ourselves that we want to keep in the shadow but can't remain in the shadow because they're a part of ourselves and they need to be acknowledged, they need to be expressed. Have you ever heard of a shadow side? If you are someone who's heard of a shadow side, what, if any, have you done in the way of your shadow work, is my question for you. Okay, we're going to come back now. So that's the exercise that I would offer you. That's something that you can look at. Again, the book is Debbie Ford. The Dark Side of the Light Chasers is so popular. So popular, such a valuable resource to really begin to understand our emotions and our psychology. It's just really a fantastic piece of work. Okay. If you enjoyed this video, do go ahead and give the video a thumbs up. Go ahead and leave me a comment, subscribe to the channel, all that good stuff. And until next time, I'll see you later. Bye-bye.